Today at 12:35 p.m. Pacific time, Mars enters Aries, this much anticipated ingress of Mars into its own sign, the beginning of the zodiac, also activating the exact degree of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction from February 20th of this year. Today, the moon is in Capricorn, so we have a practical earthy vibe as this fire energy is activated. I'm Marina Orms here with your Astro vibe for Thursday, April 9th. And before I jump in, I just want to put in a plug for my upcoming chart interpretation workshop on Thursday, April 16th. So just in a week, we will be having a group work session on charts, deepening into understand your own chart from an evolutionary perspective. Beginners are welcome. Non-astrologers are welcome. If you have a little bit of background in astrology, you will learn new things and deepen into an evolutionary perspective. So check out the link for that to sign up for that workshop in the description for this video. It's $38 to join, and spaces are limited. They're filling up fast. So if you feel called, go ahead and grab your spot. Send me an email if you have any questions. All the details are in the link below, or you can go to transformationalastrology.com. All right. Thank you for being here. So today the moon is in Capricorn, and we have that focus on systems and structures. The energy of Mars going into Aries awakens us, brings us into that new sense of self, the new beginnings of springtime. So babies, baby energy, and the emergence of plants, seeds sprouting, things coming into being. So we have that excitement, that energy of new beginnings. We also have Mars as the god of war, the warrior energy coming into our day-to-day experience. And so does that mean we will have war? Not necessarily, but you can see that themes of war are in the news, in the headlines, in the collective consciousness, in the things we are talking about. So this energy of fighting and conflict and war and, all the themes that go along with that are up. And so the Mars energy it gives us options. And it's important to remember we do have options, so we can end up in conflict. We can end up with that fight for what we want, but what is it that we want? And so that's why it's so important to be clear about what our purpose is, what our heart's truth is, what it is we are fighting for, not just fighting against. In other words, the lower vibration of Mars in that warrior sign is to want to dominate, want to control, want to express power over others. But that is certainly not the highest expression of Mars energy. So we can also use this Mars energy to be clear, to be direct, to defend and protect what is important to us, what matters most. And that's why it's important to be so clear, because things can escalate quickly. We can run into conflict. We can have that emotional reaction that kind of flares up. And so it's really important to stay grounded in yourself, in your truth, in what is meaningful, what your values are, what's true and right for you. We have this Capricorn moon energy today, and the moon moves through an opposition to Jupiter. Jupiter in Cancer. So that axis, that Cancer Capricorn dynamic between our systems and structures and rules, how we operate, how we orient, where we place our boundaries and limits, versus that Jupiter or the Cancer energy of caring, nurturing, safety, home, loyalties. So both ends of that axis can have a lower vibration and a higher vibration. So what we want to think about when there's an opposition, which this is a brief opposition, the moon moves through pretty quickly. So, but we want to think about what is the higher vibration of both sides of the axis. So not the either or, not not the Cancer or the Capricorn, not the caring or the systems, not the rules and laws and limits or the need to be home and safe and hunker down. So we want to think about how do both of those energies move into their highest potential, and how do they work together, which can sometimes lead us into new territory. And an opposition can introduce new ideas and new ways of thinking, because we're taking both of these ends of a dynamic that feel like they're at odds with each other, and we're asking ourselves to embrace the higher possibilities of both at the same time. So what does that look like with Cancer and Capricorn? It could look like creating systems and structures, new beginnings with that Aries, Mars in Aries, focusing on how do we create systems and structures of caring, of safety, of honoring home and tribe and identity and sense of self and sense of belonging. How do we create systems and structures that honor the Cancerian needs for safety and nurturing and support? And how can we bring caring into the ways that our systems and structures operate, those foundations? And so how can we think about creating laws and boundaries and ways of governing, and where do we need to bring about change that makes those laws and those systems and those ways of governing more supportive, more nurturing, more helpful, maybe at a minimum, something that actually just works better for more people. So lots to think about there. We also have this week and until April 25th, Uranus is now in the final degree of Taurus, 29 degrees Taurus. And so when a planet moves through that final degree, as Mars did yesterday, so yesterday we had both Uranus and Mars at 29 degrees of a sign, Mars at 29 Pisces, Uranus at 29 Taurus. We have that completion energy, that sense of reckoning, of I can no longer avoid whatever it is I haven't dealt with yet, having to do with the themes of this sign. And so as Uranus hits that final degree of Taurus, we are looking at that disruption, the Uranian energy that brings upset, disturbance, disruption, chaos, uncertainty into our norms, our normal expectations, what we normally depend on, count on, how things usually work. That Taurus energy of safety and stability that we usually have with Taurus. We put the lightning bolt planet in Taurus, and for the last 7 years, it's been doing this, disrupting our norms. So we're at the final degree of that before Uranus heads into Gemini on April 25th. So that energy is with us as well. So take a deep breath. It's all going to be okay, because we're going to make it okay. This is not something happening to us. It is an invitation to step into new ways of caring for ourselves and finding our ways. How do you take care of yourself in the midst of this kind of transition and change and uncertainty? How do you take care of yourself, right? That's a question. We're learning. So hopefully you can learn some things about how to take care of yourself. We are learning about how we bring about change, how we bring our own warrior energy to the table to say, hey, here's what I want. Here's what is worth defending and protecting for me. And here is how I'm going to do it. And we're discovering that. And that Aries energy says you have to try. And that's the way you find out. And you might fail, but that doesn't mean it's not worth trying. In fact, when you try and fail, you learn something. And in that learning process, you get better over time, right? This is a long-term process. And I think one of the huge, huge pitfalls of the times we are moving through right now is this tendency for everything to feel like it's the end or the potential end, or this like everything could be over, there's nothing I can do. But it's not the end. There is another day. We have another opportunity to keep going. We're not gonna mess something up. I mean, if we do, we do, right? Like if we mess something up so badly that everything, like literally everything, is lost, I guess that could happen. And if it does, well, then we become spirit beings again. But if that doesn't happen, there's still the calling here to be here and to discover how to create in the midst of this process of change. So that's all I've really got time for today, but hopefully that is a little bit of encouragement for you to keep going, to keep learning more about yourself and what you're capable of, to keep trying, to keep discovering what is possible, and what it looks like to be you, because who you are is who we need. We need each of us to be our true selves, doing what we do best to engage in this process of new beginnings and creating the future. And we're going to be doing more of that as we go forward. This is a long-term process, and we are at the very, very, very beginning of that process. So no, we can't see where it's heading just yet, but watch for the pitfall of giving up or feeling so overwhelmed by what's happening that you can't navigate your way through it. There's always something, right? There's always something you can do, and something you can do to shift your attitude, to take care of yourself, to get your needs met. And so that is why I am here with astrology for unshakable self-care, to remind us that it's about how we keep on going. Thank you so much for joining me. Transformationalastrology.com is where you can learn about my upcoming chart interpretation workshop. Get all the details. It's on April 16th. It's $38. Hope you can join me. Great for beginners and intermediate level. And thanks for being here and subscribing to this YouTube channel. I will see you next time. More astrology for unshakable self-care. Bye for now.